TV umpire to director, we have a player review. Can we rock and roll, please?
Hello and welcome to episode number 131 of the Bits and Pieces podcast. It has been only 7 days since India won the T20 World Cup, and as you would expect, we are still celebrating, we are still basking in the afterglow of this wonderful event, and I think we will continue to at least for the next 10 years, give or take a few, given how frequently our favorite team wins ICC tournaments.
Hey, Nitin, I thought from 2nd July onwards, we were supposed to cry for South Africa. This was your clarion call to the rest
Clarion
of the
call,
cricketing
yeah.
fraternity. To keep that going, you are wearing a choker around your neck. I don't know if it is for South Africa or Murli Karthik tribute, but
There you go. I'm going to say that's what it is. It is a South Africa tribute. I thought we should shed a lot of tears for South Africa, but I decided not to when I realized David Miller and a bunch of the other South African players are in the US playing Major League Cricket now. Like they didn't go back home. They didn't spend any time mourning.
unlike India, who is not playing in Zimbabwe, like
Exactly, yeah. Organize a tournament and don't show up for it. Plenty to talk about, even in a week where there has been no real cricket. So, as always, we have a short and sweet panel today. First up,
what do
Tony
you mean? As
Sebastian.
always, last week we had a 10 to 12 member panel.
That's a good point.
Depending
Let me
on
say
what
that
we
again.
get.
So, even on a week where there has not been too much of cricket, there is plenty to talk about. And for a change, we have a short and sweet panel. We had a full playing 11 or 12. Nobody was keeping count last week to celebrate the victory itself. And here to celebrate the aftermath of the victory, we have a small 3-member panel starting with myself, Nitin Sundar, and I am joined by Tony Sebastian. How are you, Tony?
Oh, amazing. I just, my only regret is that I missed the whole after celebrations in Wankhede, right? But I think, Nitin, maybe not to our taste. There's this comedian called Zakir Khan, but basically he
Yeah.
put out a reel, right? Who
Yeah.
basically said, you know
Yeah.
what, like this full week has been full of content around
Yeah.
the World Cup victory itself, random edits, so many different videos. And his only submission was, or banao.
I love that video. Yeah.
I've been waiting so much for this damn thing
Yeah.
to happen. Or banao. Like, we'll
Yeah.
celebrate for another 30 years on this.
It was
Yeah.
a classic bait and switch because the way he starts that video, you think he's going to complain about the overdose of celebration and euphoria around this event. But then there is the very smart switch. One of the major participants of the celebrations, at least from our group, is Vipul, also known as Sporty Baba, who revealed to us that not only was he at the Wankhede celebrations this week, but he also was part of the 2011 celebrations and the 2007 celebrations in the streets of Mumbai. So here he is to share his experiences celebrating India's great World Cup wins in Bombay. Vipul, how are you doing today?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Actually, the next day after the celebration, it was very tiring because as a fan, also you have to go through a lot to be a part of it. So yeah, I think using this weekend to relax.
Excellent. Yeah, why don't we start right there? Tell us about your experience. Firstly, you weren't on the podcast. You're one of the few people in the world who wasn't on the podcast last week. So, firstly, tell us your thoughts on India's wonderful World Cup win.
No, it was amazing. When you win the World Cup, is all your players have to come good at certain point in time.
Yeah.
And I think that is what happened with our team as well.
Yeah.
So if Virat or Shivam Dubey had not had a great World Cup, I think they came good in the final. And with Rohit's captaincy as well, like it had become a pattern where he would come in the press conference and say, we want to play fearless cricket, but then he would go in an ICC event and it was anything but fearless.
Yeah.
But it very rarely happens that someone has actually adapted this late in his career.
Yeah.
So I think that is something which is like quite remarkable. He literally took down Australia all by his own. So
My
that
God.
and then even the semi-final against England, it was a very tricky wicket to bat on.
Yeah.
And he and
Yeah.
Surya played really well, and finals obviously it's so well
I
documented.
have no memory of the semi. What happened?
Exactly. This is exactly what even I was thinking.
This
Immediately
is not
after.
the IPL, bro.
No, I remember. I distinctly remember the Australia match, right?
Yeah,
When
yeah.
we were in a bad shape, and then Rohit Sharma played a 92 for the ages, which
Yeah.
got covered on the podcast. But what happened
Yeah.
was semi-final was in the
Yeah.
sandwich of the last week, and nobody
Yeah.
ever spoke about it.
Yeah, no, so we
This
were
is the problem, guys.
2 down.
the entire world is catching up on what's happening in cricket world through the Bits and Pieces podcast, including the panelists of Bits and Pieces itself. So if we don't cover a match in one of our episodes, then it is forgotten. At least now it's been a week since the final, so it's fair to say we don't remember a few games.
Is it fair to call Bits and Pieces the first draft beer of history? Because
immediately after the final ended, I was trying to remember what happened in the semi-final, and I could only remember, a few clutches of that match, because I was wondering, we beat England, right? And it was a low-scoring game. Rohit and Sky scored. That's pretty much all I remember. I don't remember anything else about that match.
If there is any sort of match that can be called a revenge match, this was it, right? Because it was the same stage, semi-final, and like a thrashing, and we returned the favor.
Yeah, and in Adelaide we were literally blown away. Like even tactically, like we lost the match when Kohli and Rohit played out 8 overs of Adil Rashid and Livingston. Butler and Hales, it felt like they're playing on a different wicket altogether.
I don't think we need to remember that.
Yeah, and classic thrashing, and it's like one of those things which helped Indian cricket. Like, say, for example, drawing a parallel, like when Rafa played Dominic Thiem in a quarterfinal at the Australian Open in 2020. And Thiem beat him, and Rafa said that I got beaten by a player who was much more stronger, much more fitter, was hitting the forehand really well. He felt like he met a better version of himself that day. And then he had to remodel himself. He knew that he can't keep playing this long rallies, and he had to adapt. And that is what he did. And we knew that, like, I think in 2022, in 6 overs, our score was around 39, and the only team which averaged lesser than us was Netherlands. You can't win a World Cup playing that way of that brand of cricket. So I think even in 2023, obviously 2023 final divides so many opinions because on social media, the day after the final it was just a nightmare to be on Twitter. Like Rohit fans felt that the team has let him down. Kohli fans think that Rohit threw it away. Dhoni fans were thinking that, oh my God, that's amazing because Dhoni is the only one who will be the captain. Then there were hardcore left wingers who were like, it's good it happened in a stadium named after Modi ji. And when there were
but one quick point I want to catch, right? When you said like 2022, Adelaide against England changed the course of India's history. We know exactly what happened, which is that
they completely changed their plan for bilateral cricket, because immediately after that they decided we will not play Rahul, we will not play Kohli, we will not play Rohit, and they started playing all the younger players. Hardik Pandya became captain. Jasprit Bumrah became captain for a few games in Ireland, I vaguely remember. And then all of that was forgotten a few months before the World Cup, or rather a few minutes after the World Cup, because as it has now emerged that soon after the 2023 final, Rahul Dravid credited Rohit Sharma for convincing him to stay on. And from whatever we heard, I can only presume that Rohit Sharma and maybe Jay Shah probably had a conversation before that, saying, okay, let's have another tilt at this, and
Barbados mein India ke Jande.
So you have to give Jay Shah some credit, by the way, because I think if not for Jay Shah, we might have seen the tide actually turn, and Rohit might have left, Dravid might have left.
Once again, I don't
think
anyone has to give Jay Shah any credit. He's
taken it all for himself.
He's everywhere. He's everywhere. You remember those videos where people are having a go at John Terry because he was in the kit when he did not play the final for Chelsea? Look at this man. He's wearing a jersey with the word champions. He's a part of the parade. When Janagana Mana was happening at the Wankhede, the camera panned at him like more times than it panned at Rohit and Kohli. It's not making any sense, but he's correct. He's having.
So I don't think anyone needs to give Jay Shah credit.
Fair point.
It's like when you go to those American national parks, they'll say, "Do not feed the bear," and under which a bear has written, "Do not feed the bear will feed itself." That is Jay Shah. He's like, you just bring your picnic baskets, I will eat them up. Don't worry about it.
So somebody pointed out the irony, right? So you had Rajiv Shukla and Jay Shah who were wearing the champions jersey, and they were on the bus.
Wait,
also
Rajiv
part
Shukla
of the...
was also on the bus.
You were not watching or what?
Imagine Jay Shah hogged so much limelight that
you forgot
Rajiv Shukla was also there.
I think it was a strategic move to get Rajiv Shukla. He would have, of course, made his way to the bus anyway. But I think the fact that he was there took away a little bit of the, the edge from the fact that Jay Shah was there hogging all that limelight, because he was also there. But someone pointed out the irony, right? So Roger Binney, who was actually India's highest wicket taker in the 1983 World Cup, and is also part of the board was not actually in the champions jersey, while these two chirkuts were prancing around as if they had won the World Cup. But so it goes. My one thought, which I did not mention last week, was at the end of this World Cup, right? If you look at the last 5 overs, what really won the World Cup for India was one unbelievable bit of fielding from Surya Kumar Yadav and 5 incredible overs bowled by the three fast bowlers, which is very, very different from how we tend to remember most of India's World Cup campaigns, which are around a batsman or a batting effort, right? This World Cup, you can truly say, was, I think, actually is a capstone on the evolution of Indian cricket itself, where one of the best fielding teams in the world. And 5 incredible overs. So much so that Wasim Akram and other Pakistani legends have been talking about Jasprit Bumrah as all-time legend. Since we plug other podcasts on this podcast, there is a wonderful episode of Batta Fast, which features Osman Samiuddin and Karachi Katmal, where they talk about Bumrah and talk about India's win, and in very glowing and very perceptive terms. There's been a lot of euphoria and happiness everywhere, including on our podcast in the last few days. But there hasn't been so much great content that has come out. And I think that Batta Fast episode was a real standout for me.
This just throws back to the last episode, right? Like, if you want really good content, like lucid things, right? Like, if you look at the great songs of all time, they're all like heartbreak songs, right? Like, you need some heartbreak. Euphoria is just dancing, man. Like, it's not content for the ages. It's just like shedding some calories, dancing it out, and it's not like memorialized till a certain point in time, right? So, which actually happened at the Wankhede. So, Vipul, as our Wankhede correspondent, you can build a bigger stadium, you can shift the finals, but aayega to Wankhede hi. This was 2011, and then the next time India's won is also been celebrated at the Wankhede. Till our friend Mr. Fadnavis builds a bigger stadium in Bombay.
It's a bigger stadium. It's actually a little funny because we've got Brabin, we've got Wankhede, we've got Diva Patil.
Yeah.
A lot of times our Ranji team plays at the BKC.
Oh, right.
And now, in fact, we don't even use a lot of Diva Patil. Imagine building a bigger stadium only because you want to host the final. Now, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Bombay needs a lot of things. I think a cricket stadium is definitely not one of them.
Yeah,
this is like a deck measuring contest between politicians. Which,
and what happens is, for people who don't go to the stadium, you have this perception that a bigger stadium is better.
Yeah, right.
It's like, before I had gone to any of the stadiums, I thought Eden will be like the best. Like, it's iconic, but like, say for example, I remember the first time I went to Diva Patil, I thought that 55,000 people will be amazing, but I'm like, hey, this is nothing like Wankhede.
Correct.
It doesn't have the vibe of the Wankhede. Yeah. Every stadium has a different feel to it, and that is what makes it special. If you want to make it very homogenic, make everything like a 1 lakh seater. I don't know, 1 lakh seater is going to look really bad when you host a test match and it's not even half full.
Correct.
And I think it's like, you have to understand this. Lords, it doesn't have a great capacity. Edgbaston, I feel there is no venue which vibes like that for all 5 days of test cricket.
Right.
So it's not just the capacity, it's what the crowd does. Yeah. And I think Wankhede, I mean, you were there for the semi-final. You knew when Shami took the third wicket and Rod Latham came in, everyone was like doing the double clap.
We took the third. Shami happened to bowl it. We took the third wicket.
Yeah, no, fourth actually. Fourth. So you knew that this is like, it's become a quadron. It's very difficult for him to face this. So this is what a crowd does. So
definitely very difficult, because Rod Latham is like 70 years old. Expecting him to come and play in a World Cup semi-final. Tom Latham.
No, but Nitin, this is one thing that I forgot to mention in this week's Leftover Lasagna, which is the other podcast that you and I run. It's nothing to do with cricket, but a lot about life itself. And this week we were talking about thinking in bets, right? And I think the biggest expression of thinking in bets is probably a sports fan going to a stadium, right? Because you never know what you can expect. Like your team can lose badly. Like, it can be like a traumatizing day, like Eden Gardens semi in '96, or like Pune losing by 333 runs, where I was there. Or it can be like a epic final, like epic semi-final, like the one in Wankhede in 2023, or whatever that was. the final in
Yeah.
the Namo Stadium. So Vipul, this celebration was an entirely different thing because for sure you knew what was going to happen, right? So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about the color of the day. What was it like beyond the organizational snaffus, which maybe we'll get to?
Yeah.
What is the feeling like?
So see, first of all, I actually go to the stadium to watch the game. I don't usually go because I can see a cricketer.
Right, yeah.
So this was also a little unique. Like, I mean, growing up, a lot of people had asked me, "Sachin ko mila hai kya?" And I used to say no. And after a few years, like a decade of watching cricket in stadium, I actually had a definitive answer.
Yeah.
I'm like, मेरे को Sachin को नहीं मिलना है.
Correct.
I want to be there when Sachin walks out to bat in a test match in Mumbai.
Correct.
That's an amazing experience.
Yeah. Clarifying point, Vipul is watching, when he's watching the match at the stadium, he's got a t-shirt, jersey which has the number 10 and God written on it, right? So very much a Sachin fan.
Yeah.
So understand the nuance.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like, it's basically like I want to be in the arena. I don't want to like worship someone.
Correct.
So yeah, I was there when the parade was happening in 2007. And I thought that it'll be a little different if I go to Wankhede this time.
Right.
And one of the reasons why I wanted to go to Wankhede is because the parade in 2007 was very anxiety inducing. We actually do crowds better than other cities.
Right.
I think handling crush load capacity in local train, you actually know how many people will fit in if you're in a local. It doesn't happen. I mean, I used to...
You know the exact point at which things are going to turn into death. Right? Like you're taking it to like that.
Yeah, exactly. So I remember I was there during the parade in 2007, and I think there's a girl standing next to me and she was with a boyfriend, and her boyfriend just like was trying to make space for her, and he pushed people away, and I remembered that some 20 odd people got affected by it.
Yeah.
And it
actual butterfly effect.
Actual butterfly effect. And I was like, listen, I really don't want this.
Yeah.
So I decided to go to the stadium, and the celebration, like the timing that they had given was 7 p.m.
Yeah.
And my friend Nish Navalkar, who's also one of the regulars at Wankhede, he told me he'll start queuing up at 2:30. Now, so you also have to understand that Nish has been going to the stadium for a long time.
Correct,
So it makes sense. So what I did was we called up the MC. I asked him when are the gates opening. So this is just tactics. Like
so. Wait, you called up the MC?
Yeah.
And they actually picked the phone.
Mumbai Cricket Association.
He didn't call Gaurav Kapoor.
Yeah, possible.
Or Jay Shah, who is actually the MC.
Yeah. So they said that it's starting at 4. We queued up at 2:30. It was very bad. Somehow there was one policeman. There were too many people, and it was not an experience which I'll recommend it to anyone. So earlier the gates were gate 2, 3. So people who have not been to the Wankhede, gate 2 is just next to Church Gate.
Right.
It's easier to get in. Gate 3 and 4 are at the Marine Drive. So we were at the gate 3 and we were there for like 45 minutes, a lot of pushing and shoving. The police people asked us.
And this is not a ticketed event.
This is not a ticketed event. And see, I understand if it's not a ticketed event, there have been a lot of non-ticketed events as well. But I think there is a way by which you can manage the crowd.
Right.
Then we were asked to go to the other gate. Suddenly, they just opened it and is like, just get in. There is no checking. It's probably the first time I've entered a sporting arena where no checking has happened. It's
oh wow, really?
No checking has happened. It's like they're just saying that okay, just keep getting in. So people are running to get in. It's not a space where you would want to be in. I saw a few people tripping down. It was very anxiety inducing. Then we got in, and I think once you got in, then it was not a problem. Then you were there from 4. It was this rare day where you could also get your bags, umbrellas in a stadium.
Everything.
Which doesn't happen. Otherwise, they'll also take off coins in an Indian.
But did you know this? Did you know this before going, that you could take your bags and bottles and whatnot?
Nitin, you've been associated with cricket and you've seen cricket in Indian stadiums.
I know
if it's planned like 24 hours in advance, expecting
exactly. So with
details, just asking a lot. So I had an umbrella and I'm like, okay, I don't want to get drenched, but if I have to drop the umbrella outside the stadium, it's okay.
Got it. Okay.
So, but I could get in. A lot of people had come there with the bags. Clearly, the first time they were coming to a cricket stadium, but they also got in. And
so just to clarify, Nitin, this is not their magnanimity that they allowed bags in.
They just don't. They haven't set up.
My show didn't come and like they were not part of the thing, so they're like, fuck it, like इतने पैसे
बंदोबस्त नहीं है,
जो करना है कर लो.
मेटल डिटेक्टर नहीं है, कुछ नहीं है आज.
So
But
the
that's a
thing is-
serious security concern, no? Like if there were,
exactly,
that's a serious
exactly.
security concern.
Exactly.
No
So
turnstiles, no
anyone-
idea what is coming into the stadium in India.
Yeah,
Wow.
no one knows anything. And then you just filled in the stadium, and there are people who are sitting on the stairs, etc. It's raining.
Yeah.
You're just hoping that nothing untoward happens here.
Correct.
And then when we got in the stadium, it was like around 4:30, and then you're trying to check where the team is. Then people are tracking the flight. Then you're getting to know that okay, the team is landing here at 5, and then you're hoping that then you don't know. It's like Bombay peak hour.
Right.
Will they be stuck in traffic? If they're getting out of Andheri, if the parade, you started seeing the crowd at Marine Drive. So they're saying it's 1 hour, 2 hours. You don't know how long it's going to take. So you might be there till like 10. There's no water in the stadium. Half of the washrooms were shut. So it wasn't the finest experience till the time the team showed up.
Right.
So
When did the team show up?
the team, I think it was around 8:45.
Wow.
My
took a while.
God.
Yeah.
Was there a
And
DJ to
my-
keep you entertained? RCB.
So what did you do for 4 hours? It's like
No, so
Stone,
that-
paper,
so,
scissors.
okay, after that, you mentioned RCB. I think one of the good things why it happened when it happens at Wankhede is you don't like. So imagine
You don't
if this
need
would
it,
have happened in Chinnaswamy, and I love
Hey,
Chinnaswamy.
hey, Bengaluru.
Yeah, and a lot of RCB chants would have happened even for celebrating an Indian team win. So thankfully, all that did not happen at Wankhede. There was a DJ, but then I think in Wankhede the thing is the crowd entertains themselves. Like you'll do a Mexican wave, you'll do Sachin. You've seen cricket at Wankhede, you know how it is like.
Yeah.
Was it like food and water and all? No chance.
The washrooms are shut.
Washrooms are shut.
Yeah, half of them. Yeah. So like
That is
after-
why water was not provided.
Yeah, exactly. It's not that deep, bro. So what happened was the washroom on the third floor, like level 3, it was open till like 6:30, and I think the MCA guys, some of them would have left after 6:30, so they shut it down.
Pee all you. This is like the opposite of happy hour. Happy hour is up to 6 p.m. you can drink all you can. Here up to 6 p.m. you can pee all you can. After that you can't pee.
Yeah. So and
Sad
see,
hour.
I'm very lucky. Like I've been to stadiums so many times that now you know people in the stadium as well.
Yeah.
So I could
Oh.
entertain myself, but I think if someone would have just walked in and just been there for 5 hours
And got stuck.
he got stuck.
Couldn't have gotten out
It's
also.
actually a lot of patience.
Yeah.
But then the team showed up, and then it was fun after that.
So what happened after the team showed up?
So we were at Vittal Davecha, so we could actually see the team from like it was very very close, and I think you saw the entire ceremony, and you like I think we pretty much knew what's going to happen. We knew that it'll be Rohit, it'll be Kohli, it'll be Dravid. Maybe they'll ask Bumrah to speak something. I was expecting Hardik to say something because that would have made a good story. But yeah.
Oh, what is Hardik's return to Wankhede like?
So see, I don't follow the IPL, so I have.
No, he got booed last time.
Yeah, so I've
And
heard-
Sanjay Manjrekar said behave to the crowd.
Yeah, that's
Behave.
pretty stupid thing. I don't think I've ever heard a commentator saying crowd to behave because the crowd has booed a player.
Correct.
Like I don't and Manjrekar till date starts justifying it in one of the random forums. So it's just Sanjay Manjrekar things. But Tony, you've been to Wankhede a lot of times. You also will understand when I say this that unlike say a Chepauk or Chinnaswamy, the India cricket crowd in Mumbai is very different from an IPL crowd.
Yeah.
Like if we have some 70 odd people,
Which is why I never go to the IPL.
I don't go to the IPL
this is a
either.
horrible
And see,
experience,
it's not like I'm not trying to be an elitist here,
Right.
but what happens is if you can watch an India World Cup semi-final at 4,000 and India World Cup match against Sri Lanka at 4,000, I'm not going to pay 4,000 or 4,500 for a 3-hour IPL match. It's not a question of whether you can afford it. I don't think it's worth that kind of money.
Yeah.
And also in IPL, you have your DJs trying to do stuff. Aaj aap kisko support karoge and all. It doesn't. You don't require that in Mumbai. It's organic, and I think that's the joy of it. If I wanted that, I would have gone to Chinnaswamy to do RCB.
Oh my God, what a backhanded slap for Bangalore. But yeah, sure, go on. Mumbai knows its cricket. You don't need all that. If I need that, I'll go to Chinnaswamy. Ramachandra Guha dug himself a grave and went and slept in it and turned a few times.
Ramchandra Guha is he knows his stuff, man. You'll always find him in the end stand.
He knows where it is better.
He's doing really well.
No, the good thing about Bangalore is I think they also open up that stand where you get drinks. So
Yeah, no, Chinnaswamy for a test match is a great place to be. I mean, highly recommend that. Went on till like 10:30.
Yeah.
And
So like 2 hours,
yeah.
basically they spoke.
Yeah, 2 hours. It's basically all the usual suspects were there. Then there was some song and dance, and then
no. And
a
my
lap of
question
honor.
was this being like a sort of artificially constructed euphoria versus something that organically happens out of sports win. Did it feel different or like?
No,
what is the full
it is fine.
experience?
See, for example,
I'm just jealous at this point. I wasn't there, so that's why.
no. So you
Really, you would have gone if you were free. You would have gone, huh, Tony?
Gone. Of course, I would have gone.
No, but
For this thing,
I'll,
wow, okay.
I'll tell you my experience. I'll contrast it with the 2011 final.
Yeah.
So when you would see the beauty of sports, when you also mentioning that you don't know what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it.
Correct.
So for our listeners, I remember I pinged Tony on the day of Afghanistan versus Australia, and I told him come for this match.
Yeah.
Afghanistan was batting first. The One Day World Cup. I told him come. Afghanistan can actually beat Australia, and if it happens, you will have one of the finest memories of all time.
Yeah.
That did not technically happen, but
No,
I think
I still had one of the finest memories.
Yeah, and we saw a freak show by Glenn Maxwell. So I think you go to a stadium to just enjoy the sport, and what you get is like just a bonus.
Correct.
Yeah. You can never plan things like this. A lot of times, a lot of people who are going to say a Grand Slam for the first time, I think I've probably faced that question every year for last 20 years that, hey, my dad wants to watch Federer. Which ticket do I buy?
Yeah.
And I'm like, even Federer can't answer it. I think if you just want to be sure, just buy the tickets for the first 3 days of a Grand Slam, and you'll get to see him play. But the thing is, if you go to watch a quarterfinal or a semi-final, the odds are you're going to see a very good match.
Yeah.
Correct.
So I personally, it'll sound a little funny, but I was hoping that India doesn't play the semi-final at Wankhede, because what happens at Wankhede is the boundaries are short. The toss plays a crucial role. Yeah. I'll be very anxious. I think it's okay if they play Pakistan in Calcutta. I think I can happily, peacefully watch a South Africa versus Australia in Mumbai. Yeah. So the thing is, it's not that you want to be there to see the team win. Yeah. If it happens, it's great. And that's the reason why a lot of people also behave very badly when a team loses.
Correct.
So I've seen people paying atrocious money for the final. Yeah. It's atrocious. Like, say, for example, forget final, even India-Pakistan. I know someone who, the Hyderabad-Ahmedabad flight rates were, one way it was 35,000. Yeah. And the man had 2 tickets. Yeah. He paid like 140,000 for that. Yeah. And imagine a scenario where your team loses, like what happened in the final. Yeah. And then you start behaving badly. Okay. So what I saw at Motera was that even when Australia needed 100 runs to win, people started leaving the stadium. And I think by the end of it, half of the stadium was practically empty. And it doesn't put on it doesn't send a good message. Correct. Like, I mean, and compare it to other sports, compare it to other big sporting arenas. Like, I mean, Germany ran riot, that 7-1 scoreline against Brazil. Yeah. It's not that when there was a final whistle, everyone was there. They might have booed their home team, but you don't want to ruin it for Germans. Correct. And Germans also, out of sheer respect, did not go overtly celebrating it. Correct. Yeah. So I think, and I get it, because you have paid 60,000 for a 4,000 rupee ticket to see India win. And when that's not happening, it's pissing you off. Yeah. In 2011, when I got the World Cup final ticket, it was not a India final at that time. And a lot of people ask me, like, what are you going to do if India doesn't make it? Will you sell it? Yeah. And I'm like, are you stupid? I don't even know when Wankhede will host the final again, because we have another issue where Pakistan can't play in Mumbai. So it doesn't, we might not get the final. Final might go to Eden Garden. So I'll keep it, man. If it's Australia, Sri Lanka, I'll watch it happily. Yeah. Big deal. Now, if someone would have told me that the final will be in my city, my team will be playing in it, will win the World Cup. And, as a kid, I think I spent 20 years of my life assuming how it will be, who will hit the winning runs. And if someone would have told me that Dhoni is going to finish it like how he finished it, and the party from Wankhede had spilled on the streets, it was the greatest night of my life. You can't prepare all this. Yeah. So and that's the joy of sport.
Yeah. So there's a difference between being an India fan and being a cricket fan, right? Broadly. Yeah. And too many people in India, or I think it's true for most sports fans, tend to go because they're fans of a certain team, right? And I think some of us probably are a little different. So, for instance, when I went to the 2019 World Cup, I went for 3 games in England, and 2 of them were not India games. The India games were available. But I wasn't interested in the India games. I actually wanted to see other teams play. And similarly, I'm trying to go for the New Zealand Sri Lanka Test match in Gaul, which will be happening later this year. So again, it's not an India game, and there's a certain joy to going as a neutral and watching a game where your stakes are like very very low. You're just investing in the smaller subplots of the game as they unfold, rather than carrying or being too invested in one particular team and how they end up doing. So yeah, I think different strokes for different folks there. But tell us more about your experience, Vipul, on during that celebration. How was it? By the way, were you the person who threw that light blue T-shirt which Hardik Pandya caught famously?
Not light blue.
I don't even know
LSG,
what it
no.
is. Ganguly shirt,
LSG.
I've seen so many-
LSG. Double scales. Come on.
Yeah, I don't know
It
how
was a
that
double scale.
happened. How Hardik like randomly saw it coming.
Yeah, and
towards
how
him.
did he catch it? And how did
He caught it and dropped it. The best part was the way Bumrah falls apart in laughter right behind Hardik when he sees this whole thing happen. So yeah, some people are like, that's KL Rahul, who's very angry that he was not part of the celebrations. There was of course the Saurav Ganguly thing as well from the Natter series. And wo T-shirt yahan pe aa gayi. Do you know what the interesting thing that connects Saurav Ganguly's T-shirt throw and Hardik Pandya's catch of the T-shirt
What is that?
at the Wankhede? Rajiv Shukla was next to them
Yeah,
in both these events.
he had set it up like for so long, Tony. You had to get that.
Of course, of course. Evergreen man of Indian cricket.
So I have a friend who was managing the UP T20 tournament, and in the final, Suresh Raina was the guest, the one who's going to present the trophy, etc.
Oh, okay.
Imagine it's a UP T20 tournament, so it's a big deal for them to meet someone like Raina.
Okay.
So there was one guy who helped in organizing the tournament. So Raina said thank you to this guy as well as Rajiv Shukla. And that guy called up my friend because he knew that he's doing the edits. He's like, please edit that segment.
Oh.
I don't want my name to be clubbed with Rajiv Shukla. It might offend them.
Oh, why?
Oh.
I'm not worthy.
Yeah, I might
Oh,
not. So that
my
guy has
God.
some serious pull. Yeah.
So this is not tomato then. This is some
This
like
is
truffle mushroom.
No, I mean we
Sun-dried.
consider it tomato, but yeah.
Sun-dried
Sun-dried.
tomato.
Yeah. So much like imagine if fans are feeling like this, how it must be for the players.
Yeah.
So you have been through so much. You like literally had the perfect 50 over World Cup campaign.
Yeah.
And then you lost in the end, and at the top it's very very lonely. And it's across all sports, but especially in India, I always feel that Indian cricket team plays with more pressure than I think the only equivalent we have is the Brazil football team, who actually
Yeah.
lost in the morning to Uruguay. But yeah, I mean that's a pressure. So imagine how difficult it must be, and unless and until you're a diehard Rohitian,
Yeah.
I don't think anyone had him like
Yeah. Nobody
like
saw
on
this
top of-
coming. Yeah.
Yeah, and to be honest, like just looking at him visually, right?
Yeah.
It looked like he had grown in stature and also around the waist, right? Like this
Yeah.
World Cup, he actually has
Yeah,
lost
yeah,
a bunch
big
of
time.
hair, has looked bigger. Like definitely not. You're not putting money on Rohit Sharma coming out trumps in this World Cup.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
it's like a lot of people before the World Cup. In fact, one of the strong points was that Rohit and Kohli shouldn't be there.
Correct.
Just because of Jay Shah's goof up, it made it just very, very obvious that they'll be there. That was a very
This
strong.
this podcast is testimony to that state of
Yeah.
thought.
So actually, I'm really glad that it was Gaurav Kapoor and not Akash Chopra or
Yeah.
Ravi Shastri. I think
Or
Gaurav
Gautam Gambhir.
or Gautam Gambhir. Okay.
Harsha Bhogle didn't even make it to this list of 3, which says something. But yeah.
So, so it was just very obvious feelings about like how do you feel, and imagine just the feeling like you when you're a kid, you're struggling to get into a Mumbai local to go and play a match. Your dream as a kid is just to play a match at the Wankhede. If you're representing Mumbai in under 17, 19, to just be there going as a world champion, I think it's unparalleled. Like and then even for Kohli, like so many things have happened to him in that stadium itself. Like the 2011 final and like so the double century at 235. century in his 200th match, the 50th 100, and then again this, and Dravid signing off. So I think it was just it felt like a good Rajshri movie minus all the cringe. Yeah.
Great. The
Nice.
cringe had happened earlier in the afternoon when they had to meet Mr. Oman Jersey. Let's not forget. So,
But even there,
And the
Rohit
cringe
said
has
that
continued.
वो pitch मेरे लिए वो था और मैंने पता था कि मैंने वो किया है. So
yeah.
And the cringe has continued afterwards at the Ambani family, whatever, wedding festivities. Yeah. So,
No, the wedding's still next week, I think. So,
whatever
Vipul,
has
are
been
you
going
going
on,
for
I
that? Do
don't
you
know.
have tickets
man.
to the? Do you have tickets to the Ambani wedding?
2 p.m., sir. When is the gate opening? I've only been seeing photos of people who lost their footwear, outside the Wankhede Stadium.
yeah,
And it's
Wait, what?
shock. And
walking at the Marine Drive,
Yeah.
you actually like it was not a pleasant experience.
Right, obviously,
so obviously there are a few dustbins which are stationed at Marine Drive. Obviously it was overfull, and the number of chappals, shoes that you'll see, you'd actually like if you wouldn't have known what has happened, and you would have just walked there, you would have felt like a bad stampede has happened here.
But
Chor
why
Bazaar.
was the footwear off?
Okay, I'll explain. It happened with a friend of mine. I think in the rush, something happened and he lost his watch.
Okay.
It fell down.
Okay.
But there was so much of crush load that he couldn't even you can't even bend down.
Yeah.
There's no way you can even bend down.
Yeah.
And then he's been pushed or he's moved by his own wheel by 50 meters. There's no way you're going to find it.
Yeah. Okay.
If that can happen to your watch, obviously it can happen to your footwear as well. And I mean, obviously, MCA or Virat Kohli tweeting that Mumbai police has done a great job. I don't really know. It clearly shows that it's not a great job. And,
I actually don't know what the police could have done to stop this, though. Because if you have so many people, and you actually invited them, you said, please come and, welcome our team as they come into the stadium. People are going to show up. Like, what are the cops going to do? There's nothing they can do.
Yeah. No, but see, for example...
no, in some senses, right, I feel like it's better that it's not a ticketed event. Yeah. Because you're not putting a cap on a financial strata of the society, and you're basically saying if you're passionate enough, come. Yeah. And you've been in Mumbai long enough to know it's going to be a fuck all experience, right? If this team still means to you more than the fuckallery of people coming together, then do it, right?
No, so
there is a poetic justice to it in that sense.
No, so I understand this. I could perceive this will happen. Yeah. Outside, and I was just hoping that I hope there's no stampede. Yeah. Everyone, I think, when they saw the crowd, was just hoping that. Yeah. But this shouldn't happen at the Wankhede. Obviously, I mean, obviously, anyone who's getting in, their bags have to be frisked, etc. You have so much of random policing that happens, when people who are non-Indians when they come to India or Pakistan and they get into the stadium. A lot of time you'd see their faces, they are so shocked. Yeah. It's like, this guy frisked me 10 seconds ago. Why is the other person frisking me?
I can't even get into my personal space.
Yeah, exactly. So that if something like that happens, I think it should not. I saw people tumbling down and the ushers were the police guy was calling for help. Yeah, it should not be this difficult. And see,
so it's a minor miracle that no mishaps.
Yeah, exactly. And also,
and thankfully,
the India-England women's match, there were 3 T20s at the Wankhede at the start, in December last year. And I think the first one, it was really stupid. They underestimated the crowd that's going to come. So they opened up only a couple of stands. So for the next one, they made it free entry and everything was open. And again, it was very scary to see how the crowds were getting in. So what they did later on was they made it a ticketed event. It's just that you don't have to pay anything. So you just register yourself and you show the barcode.
Control the capacity.
Now, that was very logical because then what happened was that only that much of crowd came and you could also put in that amount of police force and MCA could manage the personnel really well. But then again, I mean, there is another school of thought that if there's someone who's a house help, maybe they don't have
access to
it. So
online.
So I think there are pros and cons of everything. But in any way, I think whenever you have a scenario like this, pretty sure the security has to be better.
In fact, some people are surprised by the numbers that showed up. For me, it was just a reaffirmation of something we have known all along as Indian cricket fans. Cricket has such a tremendous lead over all other sports, and the way cricket captures the public imagination, right? And that's why the administrators get away with whatever they do, right? The way they run cricket in the country, stadium experience, and all of that. There's just so much goodwill this sport has amongst the people, and this was just another reaffirmation of that for me.
Yeah, and it wasn't like it was very, very pleasant from the word go.
Yeah.
Like it was a very humid day. Then suddenly it started raining. If you're sitting in your seats, you have to be here for another 5 hours. Or if you're standing at Marine Drive, then you need to make space for yourself. It's going to get very crowded. Then there are heavy rains, and the team's delayed by another 2.5 hours, and people are still there. It's a working day. I don't think people stop for that long in the city. So you also hear this funda that okay, it happened in Mumbai, that's why it's cricket culture. But I think it would have happened anywhere in India. People just show up, and everyone loves a winner. I mean, it could have been very different if, say, Hardik Pandya would have gone for 2 sixes by Klaasen in that over. Then there would have been a very, very different narrative.
No, it would have just been more sorrow and the usual sort of chest thumping and everything. But I think as a country, it's fair to say, as a cricketing public, this country has taken a lot in the last 10 years. So I think nobody is grudging the fact that, finally they could get to win a game. Tell me one thing, how was it to watch the great man, Mr. Jesha, in person and, to listen to him speak?
So there was a chorus of boos by a certain section of fans as well.
Oh, really?
Then I think you'd expect it here. So I think the typical pattern in any ceremony, say for example, even for Sachin's last match, and a lot of Brit journalists had discovered this pattern that a politician will be booed, the cricketer and the police personnel will be cheered on in Mumbai. So see, a lot of PR is so visible, like it's so in your face. You can't even do away with it. Like you want to be there for an extra 5 seconds after giving the World Cup. You want to be there in every picture. BCCI is congratulating Team India, and BCCI has put out 2 tweets, and there are 8 photos. Jaisha is there in 7 of them. I mean,
8th one he's taken.
Yeah, I mean, you would believe that he's Akshar Patel, who's actually got all the wickets in semi-finals and hit 4 sixes in the final. See, not trying to get philosophical, but I think the happiest moments in life are the ones where everyone around you is happy. Yeah. Very rarely does it happen. Like in 2011, one of the reasons why it was special for me was I'd never seen so much happiness. Like when Dhoni hit the 6, the way people were, like how emotional everyone had got, and you get out of the stands and you see random people hugging each other. The euphoria was crazy. Yeah. It was crazy. I'd never seen everyone, no matter whichever economic strata you belong to. So cricket does that to India. Yeah. There's nothing else. Like otherwise, when you see rallies and all where politicians organize it, you know how many people they've got. Yeah. It's just a Rohit Sharma tweet in this scenario. You know that people are going to show up.
Yeah. No, and I mean, I think a week later, right, just processing the whole thing. It is basically a bunch of nice guys who finally had a payoff, right? As a moment.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, like on the right wing, obviously there are people trying to portray cricket and show how India is progressing and using them as sort of like this thing. Being forced to maybe tweet out political statements which are part of the toolkit. The celebrations of the PM being a classic example. On the other side, on the left, liberals are basically calling it Team BCCI, not even Team India and all of that, and like looking at them as like money grabbers and that, this and the other, right? In the middle, you have basically people who are crazy for content saying, like there is this clash between Kohli and Rohit and that, this and the other. And you have basically uninitiated toxic fan armies which belong to each player, right, which they've not asked for. Yeah. Like Virat Kohli, Viratians and Rohitians and all of these people.
There are
Gautians and all of these, right? And
who are these people, Gautians?
Okay, and Raina fans got sweet Sonunians or something. I'm not
really?
I saw it. I figured it out.
Yeah, listen to their podcast called The Balcony. Right? Like all of this is happening. And in between, there are these guys who've like basically gone through about a 10 to 12 year cycle of firmly believing in a process, right? And despite sort of a change in leadership, whether it's a captain or a coach, they've stuck to that philosophy, saying that we're not gonna. When we talk about meek cricket, etc., India has also played a very, very fearless brand of cricket, taking it to the opposition, saying we're gonna win no matter what the condition is, right? Like it's just that momentarily they might have gotten caught in a situation in a match or two, but the philosophy has been consistent, the process has been consistent, and they've had to go through a winless streak for 10 to 12 years, which is basically the lifespan of a athlete at the highest level. And you've had no wins. You've gone through a fucking pandemic where you're away from all of your families, questioning life itself, right? Like whether this has any meaning. And you've stuck by people which is not apparent to anyone else. Like if it weren't for the Sharda Ugra piece, we would never have known that there was a sort of incident where they tried to make them wear the orange jerseys, and basically they all stood as one, saying if one of us is not comfortable with it, we won't do this. Right?
Kohli facing so much flack for saying that. Like
the Shami thing
happening to Shami.
All of this, and like Siraj basically having the having the presence of mind to actually stop the match in Australia and say this is not okay, right? Like, so this is a team that irrespective of whether they win or lose has stuck to a common philosophy, has believed in the good things about cricket. And you could see, right? You could see the relief on their faces. You could see what it meant to them, right? And obviously a lot has been spoken about in terms of emotions. But I think the best part about this set of players was that even if they had lost, they had sort of made their peace with it, right? Which is a very, very rare thing to find. I think even in the Kohli clip with Modi, where he speaks about like ahankar and all of that, I think even if he had not won this World Cup, they had already made their peace with it, saying this is going to be the last sort of effort, right? And they are acutely aware of the fact that they're denying two players, right, between Rohit and Kohli in this World Cup. But also that spirit to say, can I give it one last shot, right? As opposed to something like a tennis, where a Federer can decide how long he plays, or even an IPL, where a Dhoni can pretty much decide how long he plays. There's a very different format where you're acutely aware that you're denying someone else a chance, but also your sort of the confidence that has gotten you so far is trying to push you to that one more tournament, right? And it paid off, and like everyone's massively happy, right? But it was just like a
that's good. I think that's very beautifully put.
Crazy story arc as well. Like when Virat Kohli is talking about ahankar, like he's gone like really deep.
Correct.
And it was asked to Rohit Sharma about good guys winning, and he said that ये लिखा हुआ है, लेकिन तुमको मालूम नहीं है कि लिखा हुआ है, इसके लिए तुमको जाके खेलना पड़ता है.
From our podcast group, there's at some point during this week, it could have been any time, Vikas basically asked, is there one photo where Jesha is not there? And our AI friend Mr. Kart replied like a chat GPT prompt. He said, Robro goes to sleep hugging the trophy. He wakes up at 3 a.m., finds he's cuddling Jesha instead. Right? Like this has been the story of this week, right?
This is the story. And I think it's a tribute to Rohit Sharma, right? In the middle of all this manicured social media content, there is this picture that Rohit Sharma uploaded on Instagram of him lying down in bed, trophies next to him. He looks like he's just delivered a baby, right? And I'm not, that's literally how it feels. It looks like a mother after delivering a baby. And I think the biggest tribute to Rohit Sharma is that he's that cuddly bear, kind of character whom everybody loves, who's not perfect and doesn't mind being who he is out there. And I think the team loves him for it. The fans love him for it, and his coach loves him for it.
And even the Dravid story, like I mean, I personally hate it when people call him underrated. It's one of the most idiotic things to say. In India, no cricketer is underrated. Correct. Like, especially not a man who everyone can identify. Correct. And even for him, like there's an under 19 title. And obviously Karnataka was very strong in Ranji Trophy when he was around. But I think at the international level, and I don't follow the IPL, but I think even in IPL and Champions League, I think he missed out.
Yeah.
So I think
Kohli definitely has.
Yeah.
Rohit has won a bunch,
Yeah.
but also not.
Yeah. So that I think that was just very very satisfying. Like if it was his final hurrah, and amazing servant of the game. Like I mean, it's so easy to just go and become a commentator given the quality of commentary we have in India. It's rubbish.
Yeah.
It's rubbish. Like
No, in fact, that is why we're still a cricket podcast. Like the benchmark is like if the commentators can. Basically, we'd reached a point where it seemed like bringing in a person like Gautam Gambhir seems like a good idea, right? I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I'm just saying that for a group of superstars like India is, to make it to the 15 is like tremendous, right? And you really don't need a special one as a coach, right? As much as you talk about Ravi Shastri being about bombast, that this and the other, he was a person who knew how to get the best out of people by saying, look, go out there, be fearless. If shit hits the fan, let them come to me. I'll be the one holding the door in front of you, right? Or a Rahul Dravid who's like obviously so mature and calm. I'm just worried about what will happen to the next thing, right? Because the pressure is only going to pile on. And like Gautam Gambhir, from whatever we know of him, I'm not sure how it's going to turn.
So Gautam Gambhir, I think so much he has said about the 2011 campaign himself.
I think yesterday he said Dhoni is the best captain of all time or something. So
he says that once every 3 years. He has an alarm every 3 years once he says something like this. Yeah, it's like...
I really don't know which Gautam Gambhir wakes up and what statement he makes, but clearly he is not very happy with the adulation that some of the people like Dhoni got. Like I understand why there's a superstar culture, but I don't understand the content around the superstar culture. Yeah. Like Kohli's 82 at MCG was extraordinary innings. Yeah. It was like it made my Diwali really really happy. But do I want to see it every day of my life? Maybe not.
हर दिन दिवाली नहीं होता है.
Yeah, so the thing is, I think Gambhir also, he doesn't like all that, but I think at that level it's a lot about micromanagement. Like I remember someone had asked Goran Ivanisevic once when Djokovic won his 23rd Grand Slam, like, what do you even teach this guy? Correct. There is so Goran Ivanisevic said that no, he's very driven, and then we just make it sure that he does his routines, and then somewhere Djokovic will get up and he's like, I don't think I'm hitting my backhand well, and then you think that this is the greatest backhand player in the world. What the hell is he talking about? But then at every level there has to be certain determination to get better, because that's a difference that is required at the clutch moment. Like Surya, we saw his catch, but just think about it, like. He has spent so much time with Kyron Pollard, who has taken so many of this kind of catches. He would have done this like 100 odd times to pull it off very
100 times a day.
I don't even know how many times to pull it off cleanly in a moment like that, in a match of that magnitude.
It's not like he had any doubt, right?
I had like a couple of points of reaction. Right? Firstly, Tony, what you said, very, very thoughtful and nicely put. Right, like you can say what you want about the amount of money in Indian cricket and the way as a board and as a entity in cricket, India bullies the rest of the cricketing world. But the players have nothing to do with that. And this bunch of players absolutely deserved something as special as this for everything that they've been through and the journey you've been through. Like you said, they've just played the sport in the right spirit right through, and they've done the right things for so long. And they just deserved it, So let's just say that, right? The other thing was, you were talking about Rahul Dravid being unsung and all of that, right? So, which was one of the thoughts that came to my mind also, that Tendulkar won an ICC event, and Ganguly is spoken of in glowing terms, and Dravid sort of is in that sense didn't get his due, which he did. Like, and someone correctly pointed out to me, he was the captain of the team that won for the first time in West Indies, won in England. And India have not won a series in England since then, right? And they won in the West Indies.
Winning runs in a Test match in Adelaide also. 2000.
Adelaide was iconic. South Africa first Test win in South
Africa. Correct. First time India won in South Africa. Yeah, so he has quite a few feathers. And I think the nice thing in Dravid coming back as coach, right? Because on the captain kind of requesting him to come back, was a nice bit of symmetry to the fact that he was always seen as this guy who was mentoring younger kids in the Under-19 World Cup and A teams and all of that. So that a player finally threw him a lifeline which he himself did not know he needed or was available was I thought a nice sort of closure there. On this whole concept of coaches, right? I think if you look at all the successful coaches over the years, coaches do well when the coach and the captain together have a very, very good rapport, right? It may not be a sufficient condition, but it is a necessary condition, right? And there has never been a coach who's been successful when the captain and the coach have not seen eye to eye, right? Even Pakistan cannot function that way. So for me, for Gautam Gambhir, I think if Hardik
Pakistan
Pandya is
had
going to be the
come
next,
in after we were talking about team bonding, etc. It took a little while, but
yeah, you see the new video of Pakistan jumping on mattresses to do fielding practice. So they had a mattress laid out, and the fielders are jumping, diving onto it. It's a slightly sad story with Pakistan. But yeah, you never know. Hardik Pandya as T20 captain and Gautam Gambhir as coach. That might just be they might get along very well with each other, for all you know.
Or not.
Who knows? we'll figure out. But I mean, Gambhir did a done good job with Kolkata Knight Riders, and with Shreyas Iyer, who also probably has justifiably probably feels that he was wronged and has a chip on his shoulder. So maybe it's those kinds of people who will function well with Gautam Gambhir. So yeah, we'll see about how that goes.
never know at that level. I think it's just man management. It's not about how good you are. Like say, Greg Chappell would understand the physics of batting better than anyone else. Like between say Shastri and Kumble in terms of work ethic and the imagery that had. I mean, Kumble should have been like 10x better, but it's Shastri who like
no. And again, I don't even think it's about man management, right? I think it's about, to be honest, if you're the coach of the Indian cricket team, it's about security and humility, right? And security is what Ravi Shastri had, is that like he's not going to take any glory from this coaching thing, right? If I can impart some wisdom onto these boys, good. If I can get them to have a good time, good, right? And humility is what Rahul Dravid had. To say he's always like sung or unsung or whatever, he's always had that security and humility about him. Right?
Sounds like a LinkedIn post now.
Which is why like I am like really skeptical about Gautam Gambhir. Bro, like you said, keeps talking about his 97, right? Or 91, what is it? 91 was Dhoni, 97 was Gauti. Right?
No, but
see, I don't.
If you forget, he'll remind you after a week.
See, I don't want to come across as someone defending Gautam Gambhir, because you can't defend the indefensible. But his broader point is cricket has to be a team sport, right? And he has always railed against the fact that one or two superstars.
Come on, like there is a difference between words and actions.
The way he communicates it is wrong. The way he demonstrates it is wrong.
What actions has Gautam Gambhir demonstrated that he's a team player? Like, come on, like there has been like zero things about his career, which is like borne out that his philosophy is like.
No, but I mean, he is. No, you could say this. I mean, in 97 in a World Cup final, when you have every right to defend the next 5 balls and make sure you get to 100, it did not. No. Since you are asking me for evidence, now I'm not saying this is evidence either, but I'm saying there is nothing to say that he isn't the guy who used to slow down for his hundreds. And we can point to many players, even in the current team, who do that routinely. Right? And I think it's fair that someone actually calls out that there is a different way to play cricket. And if he becomes coach and he actually institutes a culture where players don't slow down for individual milestones, I would be all for it. All right, that brings us to the end of episode 131, and hopefully this will be the last of our celebrations, at least on the podcast, of India's World Cup victory. But you never know. Maybe we'll be back next week, much like the BCCI. First, there was India winning the World Cup, after which there was the post-match celebration, after which there was an interview the next morning about how Rohit Sharma felt during the post-match celebration, after which there was a victory parade, after which there was a speech, and after that, they put out one more video asking him, how did you feel when you were giving the speech after the victory parade? So you never know. There are many derivatives to this, more angles to this. Maybe we also deserve to celebrate India's win in the T20 World Cup for more weeks to come. But thank you so much, Vipul, for bringing in a very unique perspective right from the Wankhede for all our listeners. And glad that you had a great evening. And also, I'm glad that Bombay had a great evening and that there was no untoward incident at the end of all of this. So thank you so much, Vipul and Tony. This was a wonderful recap of a wonderful celebration.
Truly the end of an era in Indian cricket, but no such thing for bits and pieces. We shall continue with our cuddly bear takes on the internet.
First draft of history.
Again on first draft beer of history. Join us again on episode 132, where Hank will lead the discussion on selections for the BGT, which is coming up soon. And
But before that, there is a Sri Lanka series. Please, let's not forget there will be a team selection for.
There's a New Zealand series.
Oh, there's a New Zealand series. Okay.
Please don't just focus on big events.
Right. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. See you all next week. Bye bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.